Welcome to Brand of the Match. In this series, Joel and I are going to be debating who's the best brand in a series of competitions. This is heavily leaning on the World Cup, and there's a deep irony in this, and that neither of us are sporting fans, but we're going to make it work. So we're going to be debating who's the best out-of-home brand, who is the most viral brand, which brand uses personal brand most effectively. The rules are pretty simple. We're going to have the debate. We've got a couple of cards to show you. If there's a challenge, if I really disagree, I'm going to be flashing my red card. A yellow card if I'm not sure and I want us to talk about something a bit more. And of course, the whistle to start and end the show. At the end of each episode, we're going to be making the decision as to who we think deserves brand of the match for each category. And we want you guys to tell us in the comments if we've got it wrong. We can't wait to get into this and see how it goes and hear what you think of the show. May the best player win. Joel, we're back for another round.
We're back.
You ready for the countdown?
Ready for the countdown.
3, 2, 1. It never gets better. Okay, so today we are talking about the champion of out of home, which you call out of house.
That was a bit of a mistake.
No,
there.
Keep it. I love it. I love it.
Out
Okay.
of house is like out of house staff at a restaurant.
I was making it vibey. I think it's great.
House, home, whatever you want to call it.
Sure, whatever you're leaving. Okay, so I actually think this is I'm so interested in your perspective on this, because to me, this is advertising as old as time, right? I assume cavemen would paint on their cave, come get your bear meat this way. That is old school out of home, right? It's just putting signs up. It's been going on forever and ever and ever, and it's still such a key part of the marketing mix. I think it's so interesting as a way of advertising to people, because it just goes right back to the fundamentals of show me something enough times that my subconscious just builds and builds and builds a picture of something that it feels really familiar, or I change my view on it. So I think it's fascinating because it's old school. It feels very robust. I really believe in it. It's straightforward science of this many people walk past something, they see this creative this many times, therefore this will change in their perspectives, versus loads of the digital touch points that have this huge uncertainty in terms of what's going to happen with this earned media value. So I've got a real soft spot for this because I think it's kind of solid and I can get my head around it. What's your take on it as a channel?
Definitely. So from a creator and strategist perspective, historically, as you said, in the caveman era, I mean, quoting you, out of house or home, it would have been quite literally signage and things that you see on the go. Whereas now we're in a culture where you're seeing out of house, but it's actually just a mock-up that somebody created on Photoshop. And again, that distribution is through social media.
There's a spectrum here, and I suggest we pull some examples from each part of it. So you've got on the one hand, the smoke and mirrors campaigns that only exist on an iMac or in some AI tool and live on LinkedIn and do not ever get made in the world. You've then got big spend, standard out-of-home campaigns from brands that just show up on that channel over and over and over again. Then you've got stuff in the middle where there is a media buy, but there's also an earned media campaign around it. What examples have you seen this year that you think are really interesting?
So whilst, yes, there are smoke and mirrors, I think a brand that does out-of-house fake really, really well is Surreal. So you will have seen their campaigns.
Yes.
I mean, we call them campaigns. They are just truly doing brilliant copywriting, and they understand their tone of voice. They understand their position in the market. Their content where they've mocked up these really quite wild designs that are Comic Sans, break every graphic design rule. They work well on LinkedIn because if that was just written down in text, it wouldn't have had the same effect. I think out-of-house campaigns that are fake and put on social, they work because there's this feeling of, oh, imagine if I saw that in real life, it would feel quite unusual, and we don't necessarily, it's the context that people like.
One step along from that is what Canva did, where they kind of took the same approach but actually executed them. So Canva ran a series of oversized creatives in really high impact sites around Waterloo Station, which was all making kind of referential jokes to the design and marketing community. So one was make the logo bigger, and the Canva
the
logo
card was exploding.
Absolutely huge.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting because I saw a lot of that on LinkedIn. I also saw it in Waterloo, so I know that they did it. This isn't just the surreal mock-up. I think it's so interesting that they did it when their market is just the marketing community. So I was I think this is kind of cool that they think enough people walking through Waterloo are actually designing on Canva that it makes sense for them to invest in that actual space. when really all they need is the LinkedIn noise that they could have got without buying the space.
And I love that because they had a final destination, and that final destination was a LinkedIn post, because they knew that if they announced, or for example, it wouldn't have worked if they just created an oversized, unusual shaped picture and put it on social. If when they had that activation out, it inspired a certain type of marketer to take a picture of it on their way home from work, then post it on LinkedIn, and then drive even more buzz around it. So I think that worked really well because there was an insight of how that would land on socials from the start.
We're both fans of that. No red or yellow cards so
No yellow
far.
cards in this game.
Okay, so far this is all very friendly. Where do things get spicy? The TfL and Heineken Zero version of this. This is a kind of similar thing. This is for me absolutely it's a yellow card for me for the Heineken Zero and TfL takeover of the Bakerloo line, where it became Bakerloo and they swapped the double O for 0.0 to refer to the points of the alcohol. And the fact that I'm struggling to explain it to you
Far too niche.
is why I thought it was really confusing. I'm probably being a bit sheepish there. Do you agree with me that doesn't make sense?
No, absolutely agree. As somebody who doesn't drink beer or drink alcohol, I find that for me personally wouldn't have made any sense. And I also feel that, again, they might have taken the same approach with Canva. Perhaps the confusion was intentional. They knew that a certain type of person would post this on LinkedIn and think, guys, can you tell me what this is? And then the comment section becomes the destination and the discovery of what that's all about. That's where confusion and out of house can work well.
You raise a good challenge, which is it's very important that we have the humility to say that ad's not made for me. And that could be one that just is not for us. But if you're the right kind of person who saw that in the wild, perhaps that did trigger the conversation that they were hoping it did. So I'm going to stick with my yellow card. My yellow, not red, because it could be that it works for a consumer who's not me.
From my perspective, doesn't work really well is because the percentage doesn't really feel very specific to that world. I mean, it could be a percentage of like sugar in a chocolate bar.
Oh.
There wasn't that real prompt. Whereas with Canva, it's just so obvious that you connect the scale with scaling an image.
Yep. Okay.
Just my thought. A campaign that I'd have to give a red card, it would have to be the Rhode Coachella out of house that was in the desert. And look, I've got a lot of time for Hailey Bieber and Rhode and the brand world that she's built, but I do feel that there's this halo effect on LinkedIn where the founder can breathe and about 500 people have said it's marketing genius because X, Y, and Z. The execution I didn't feel was that unique or imaginative with the Pimple stickers. And whilst they had some quite strong activations on the ground, I just don't understand how the out of house added to much, really.
Pimple patches. Sorry, what?
Oh, we're on different versions of reality.
Like, I'm just going to take this right up a step. I find that campaign so confusing to my small swim lane of society where I don't understand what a pimple patch. Like, I don't get it. And therefore, I think maybe it's super, super smart. So what's happened somewhere in the period where I was like being an adult and missed the bit that this became cool is a spot. Let's go right back to what this is. A spot that used to be something you would cover up. So like my teenage years were like, how much makeup can you put on a spot? Now becomes something you accessorize with a banana sticker to draw attention to it. Like, mind blown there. Not only that, but you take it to a festival that is highly aspirational, is all about aesthetics. So like my feed is full of what are you wearing to Coachella, the Coachella look.
The Hunger Games to even get in.
Exactly. And this is now centered around the fact that you have a spot. Mind blown. And the whole execution of that, like the out of home, I agree with. Whatever, it's just a celebrity with some stickers on their face. Don't think that was particularly smart. But all of the social and influencer stuff around it was all about popping balloons and like the imagery of popping. So popping the spot, which is meant to be the like secret thing that like we don't talk about, is now like the center of this incredibly aspirational brand world. And so it's just one of those moments where I guess it's what I said about not being the customer. I have to say, I do not understand any of that. Like the subversion on every level throws me so much. But because it's so subversive, it's clearly connecting with consumers in this way that's like, so far above and beyond what any other brand is doing. And just in terms of like the volume sales, it's just phenomenal.
And what's interesting, I think, with Rhode and their out of house and them as a brand is that every single product has had some kind of social or aesthetic perspective. So what's interesting with Rhode is that nobody talks about how fantastic your skin is after using it. It's all about the world that they're bringing you into, the clean girl aesthetic that they pioneered. And what's interesting with this is that the pimple patches are almost the antithesis to the clean girl aesthetic.
It's subversion on every single level.
Yeah, you're accessorizing. So it's not just about having a glazed donut skin aesthetic. It's actually about these pimple patches drawing attention to your face, almost in the same way as a piercing would.
Right, quick halftime ad break, and this one's brought to you by Stickybeak. Stickybeak is something I've been genuinely using for years now. It's rapid consumer research built specifically for FMCG marketers. It tests packaging concepts and campaigns with real people fast, under 48 hours and sometimes like 2 hours. It's become a cornerstone of how we test insights at my agency, Brand Hackers. I was working with an iced coffee brand recently, testing cold brew formats before committing to production. We had real consumer data, purchase intent, broken down by age and gender before a single unit was made, and it completely changed how those products went to market. The process was stupidly simple too. I hit share and could send the results straight to the founder's WhatsApp the next morning. Just clear insights I could actually act on. In FMCG, the decisions are too important to run on gut feel. The margins are tight, retail is unforgiving, and by the time you realise something isn't landing, you've already spent all the budget. In my opinion, the best FMCG teams aren't treating consumer research like some big annual project anymore. They're building it into the weekly workflows. Fast feedback means quicker decisions, fewer expensive mistakes, and when you walk into a retailer's pitch backed by real data, it's a completely different conversation. Stickybeak, rapid consumer feedback built for FMCG. Check out stickybeak.co or the show notes for more details. Now, second half of the match. Let's go. That was a lovely segment into pimple patches. I'm going to pull us back out of that rabbit hole to return to the discussion, the important job we have to do here.
Out of house.
Out
home.
of house, yeah. My proposal for our winner, because I'm going to make this a bit more positive, is Pip Nut and that squirrel that they're currently running a competition to name. I love this because I think it's such a brave approach for still a relatively small brand. Pip Nut have just become the best-selling peanut butter in the country. Cool, great, amazing accolade. I know they've worked so hard for that, but peanut butter is still peanut butter. Like they're not yet
reinventing the wheel.
They're not in the leagues of like huge brands, but they are showing up as a brand that is so committed to becoming a household name in how consistent that execution is. It's the white background, it's the squirrel with the nut butter in its eye. It's been the same creative with some little tweaks for years and years now, and they've just launched a TV ad all around the same idea. I think that's really scary to do when you're a small brand and you feel like you have to be like gathering earned media and gathering attention all the time and doing stuff that's like new. And I think there's a real need to be new and to be kind of kooky to get attention that way. You know, a few years ago, they had a TV commercial. It was very different. It was all about the paparazzi. It was about like making nut butter Instagrammable and the kind of sourdough slice and wanting to take photos of that. That's kind of gone. And now there's just this one really strong visual identity. So that's my shout out, because I think it takes real nerves to do that, to not want to throw it out the window and relaunch something else because that's what's going to get you the traction. I mean, I know too much about the Pip Nut team, which probably makes me kind of even more loyal to them, but they've all been in their roles for a really long time, which I think is also really important. I think sometimes it's really easy to not look into a business to think what's going on there that might be creating this kind of work. What's going on in Pip Nut is a team that love their jobs, who've been in role for years and years and years, and that's allowing them to create really confident, consistent work that I think is really building this brand awareness in a way that's going to make them sustainable, going to keep them on the map for a long time. So they're my faves. What do you think?
Well, I think you fought a strong case and it's been a good match, but
a compelling case.
We're playing a game, so
Yeah.
I'm going to give my favourite. As much as there's been a lot of chatter about it, I have to go back to September 2025 and give it to Lime for their out of house, where they use that reactive moment about the tube strikes happening and turned a list of the Bakerloo and the lines that are operating in London tube services into an advert for their bikes. And I think that was such a genius move, and to really move at such speed where other taxi companies could have done the same thing. I do have to say this with a bit of a caveat. I think they could have really turned this into a series. I mean, how many more strikes have we had since, especially in London? That could be a really, really good owned opportunity that they could continue to repeat.
Why do you think they haven't come back?
Maybe they feel that they don't want to rinse and repeat the execution that they had, but I still think there's huge opportunity.
I think that's a very strong case too. But something's going on there. The fact they haven't brought it back means I think I might still be onto a winner. There was another example recently. I don't know if you saw. It's a bit like the Great Line Bike creative, where Turo.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, Turo, the car rental platform, jumped on the Zipcar going under moment with some creative that was basically like Zipcar left the group chat, Turo is still here. Is kind of the theory. It really like worked in the moment. I posted about it on LinkedIn and got it was amazing. The post went really well and I got loads of comments on it. What was interesting about it was lots of people were like, this creative's kind of lazy. One, I thought that was kind of interesting. And that was fair enough. Like the creative was not the strongest creative. It was just a very simple, it was just showing up in the right moment. The story was just, they're not here anymore, we are. And the creative wasn't fantastic, number one. True and fine, I think, not a problem. The other thing was the story from the team on like just how they turned that around. Like they're like, of course the creative wasn't amazing. We had 24 hours. What are you talking about? We just got it up. How cool is it that we got it up? That's the point. That created the noise. So I found that conversation around the campaign really interesting, just to like remind ourselves of what goes on in those Slack channels that then creates that sort of thing. And I guess it's cool to think of two examples of where out of home has been used as almost as a social media post. It's like, we can't get it all over your feeds fast enough, so we're going to put it all over your tube stations, but we're just going to put like a big piece of comms out that's reactive. We're treating this a bit like a newspaper, as opposed to the way out of home is typically seen, which is about reach and frequency and building awareness slowly.
Yeah, so I really love that. Two things. One thing I find quite annoying is when you see a campaign that's been executed really fast, the comments will always be, oh, that looks awful. Oh, where's the craft? Oftentimes that craft conversation is just marketers speaking to marketers. So I think it's important we think about it from the consumer's perspective. They're not thinking, oh, brilliant, or oh, awful. They should have gone for a better photographer or some better art direction. And
yeah,
I think,
or I would buy that, but where's the craft?
Absolutely.
Said no one ever.
And craft is a very insular conversation that we're having within the industry. Second point that I absolutely love that you mentioned is that out of house historically has been very slower pace as opposed to social. So when a brand can work and get their content out of the door faster, I find that more admirable. Maybe it's from a marketer's perspective, but it's more admirable when they get it done in real life instead of just mocking it up on Instagram 5 minutes later. So when out of house is executed in that scenario, when it's the next day, they've admitted on LinkedIn that they didn't have the time to execute it or craft it as well as they would have. But to show that they're in the pulse and in the conversation in real life, I think that's really important.
The other example that I want us to talk about, which is my second favorite, which is an interesting segue from this because it's literally the opposite, is the very large, very considered ads that Nike have run around the marathon. So runners welcome, walkers tolerated, what doesn't break you makes you a Londoner. Like very considered copy. This is not reactive. This is like the sides of buildings taken over. They put a barge down the Thames on the day of the London Marathon. It's the opposite, right? It's months and months and months and months of planning to deliver something that was quite provocative and created quite a lot of debate. And I think it's just like worth surfacing as another example of that platform used really well, which is how can you make huge numbers of people stop and have a conversation. And I'm actually really pro it. Like whatever you think about the copy, for me personally as a consumer, like I'm exactly that kind of sort of wannabe athlete that's really baited by comms that tells me if inadvertently, like if I'm not running, I'm not good enough. That does something to my sense of self. And I'm like, right, I want to buy this brand. I'm in, like I'm here for the trainers. So I have a deep appreciation for it because it gets me and it gets a real insight about how many people want to be that kind of athlete.
I have to give you a bit of a yellow card there, though,
Oh,
because I felt that the execution, especially with the Nike floating their messaging around the Thames, just felt really cliche. I think every marketing team in the world has said, why don't we float something around the Thames? Love the copywriting, love the tone of voice, but that didn't feel very distinct to that marathon moment. We're already seeing campaigns that are on the tube that feel quite direct and blunt and harsh, that are tailored to that just do it audience. Like, there wasn't anything, from my perspective, tone of voice wise, that felt really, really London Marathon.
I think you're right. I don't think it felt really London Marathon. I am also not sure whether it felt really Nike. Like, it feels like I mean, I know this is a brand that's been on a huge evolution, but to me, Nike is still a bit about inclusivity and a bit about being for everyone and the idea of empowering anybody to just do it.
It's a bit like a tough coach.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of like playing football back in the day.
If you draw a narrative between Just Do It and where they are now, that is quite a strong change in tone, which I agree is a bit uncomfortable and perhaps not that ownable as a result. I'm interested in. You make such a good point. Every brand ever has said, "Let's float something down the Thames."
Ever.
Ever, literally ever. Does that mean that you shouldn't do it? And this, again, it comes back to the same tension. There's a tension under all of this, which is, if the marketing community don't think it's innovative, perhaps, does it matter? Or is the only thing that matters, they got that many impressions with a strong message to that many consumers, job done?
I think whilst I can understand the frustration of marketers speaking to marketers, I actually think that a good marketing campaign that a marketing commentator has spoken about can actually sway public perception almost in the same ways that a news channel could influence perception on a current event that's happening. So there is real value in brands pleasing marketers because they're ultimately distribution as well.
I think fundamentally, I don't care that it's cliched. I agree with you, it's cliched, but I don't care. I kind of like that I don't think Nike care what the marketing community think. I think what they've done really well is know that a wannabe runner does care.
But I would argue the copy doesn't really speak to a wannabe runner. So they were speaking to some level of professional in the first place.
See, I think that misses the deep state of paranoia you live with if you're a wannabe runner. So it's not speaking to me, but I want to be part of that world and therefore I feel spoken to.
Yeah, so it's almost like exclusionary slightly, but inviting you.
It's like a VOP strategy. Make me feel not invited and I desperately want to be in the room. And I think that's very smart. I don't think it's friendly. I don't think it's inclusive.
No.
I'm not sure I like my emotional response to it, but I want the shoes. And therefore, I think it's great marketing.
And I also think what's brilliant from them activating is that they've really separated people who have the shoe and are part of that world and the activity versus people that are performing it. As in, somebody who buys from Nike and runs has more social currency than somebody that just bought the shoe and didn't run.
And that's pretty powerful. It's just not comfy.
Yeah, and that's the pain point I think they're speaking to in the copy.
Yeah, I think that's brave. I don't know if I like it for them as a brand, but I think it works. I think it's effective. And that's why I don't care that they floated something down the Thames.
So shall we find our winner of the match?
Yes, let's
Brand
do it.
of the match.
Right, let's blow our whistles. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Right. Shall I make my case again? I think this one might be mine. I feel so strongly about it. I'm such a big fan of that squirrel.
I'll give it to you.
All right. Joel has agreed to give me this one. My champion of the match for out of home is Pip Nut, because I think it is so cool that if you see a picture of a squirrel, you now think of Pip Nut. They've managed to own an animal by being that consistent. I think it takes real bravery to launch the same creative every single year in a marketing world now where it's all about kind of what's new, where's the crazy earned media value going to come from, what are you doing that's like really reactionary, really compelling, really kooky. I love that they're just showing up with the same kooky little critter. Okay, so we're going to take a moment to look at our crystal balls of marketing truth. The future of out of home as a channel, what do you think we're going to see coming up?
I mean, it's already starting to happen, but real out of house will become the status symbol as we are currently trying to decipher what is a photoshopped mock-up. Have I seen that exact same angle with the exact same lighting before versus genuine, reactive, quite challenging creative that might have been shipped the next day? And what I think is going to happen is we're going to start seeing brands invite influencers to out of home activations, especially billboards, to create content and show that it actually exists in the physical world.
I think you're right. I fundamentally loathe QR codes. I think they are so irritating. The idea that I'm going to pay my bill in a restaurant by scanning a QR code just drives me mad. But I understand what they're trying to do in out of home. I understand the logic of like, I'm not going to type a URL in, search is going to change. So am I going to put into ChatGPT the name of a brand I've seen on an ad? Am I going to scan a QR code? I think something really interesting is going to happen as our relationship with what we see in real life changes, and like how GEO affects that, and like what that digital path to purchase is going to be. Kind of fascinated by that, but like crystal ball's pretty cloudy as to what that's going to look like. Not going to pretend that I've got the expert view there. The other thing that I'm fascinated in is fly posters, stickers on lampposts, like the much grittier end of out of home. I think there's going to be a lot more focus on in real life experiences, and a lot of people really actively looking for stuff that they can engage with that's not on their smartphone. And therefore, I think out of home is going to grow as a channel, can kind of continue to be more and more interesting. And it's a bit of a like loaded ask because I'm so desperate to run a campaign that's like all through stickers and fly posters and on park benches. And, I really want to think about that as a proper marketing channel, as opposed to just like, I called JC Deco and I bought some 6 sheets and did a tube takeover and that was my campaign. So I hope the future is more interesting relationships with out of home and what you experience on your phone, and then us thinking about out of home in a much more like gritty, holistic way, not just buying the sexy billboard.
I feel like we've discussed this before, but I think we're going to see behind the scenes specifically tailored to the campaign ideation stage. So instead of just like the billboard as the final product, maybe we'll get brands that are posting the office style skits where it's like, okay, we have a campaign next week. How about we build this? And then that creates intrigue for what's coming next. And the unveiling of the billboard becomes more of an event instead of just like, oh, nice, bumped into that in King's Cross.
All right, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
That's full time on today's episode. Thank you so much from Joel and I for listening. One small ask, please subscribe wherever you're listening. It makes a huge difference to us and helps us keep bringing you bigger and better ideas. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. All the handles are in the show notes. And jump in the comments if today's episode sparked anything. We'd love to hear from you. See you next week.